Hello again, everyone. This is Jim here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to be talking about my views on diet and how it relates to health. I decided I want to give my opinions about what I've learned during my journey, and I want to share that. Before I start into that, though, I want to disclose up front that I am not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian. I'm not an expert of any kind in this field. I'm just a guy who used diet and lifestyle changes to begin a transformation about 4 years ago, and it completely and radically changed my life for the better. And so I feel an obligation to share what I have done with everyone. That's why I made it my channel. I've never taken a position that, hey, I'm not trying to deliver Jim's dogma. This is Jim's method. This is Jim's plan. This is how you must do it. I'm not selling anything. I'm just sharing and trying to stimulate you to start your own journey, or to start thinking outside the box, questioning, challenging things that you hear, because we are surrounded by bad information that is seemingly intentionally designed to keep us fat and sick. I hate to say it, but there can be no other explanation. So I want you to question. So I'm going to present my views today, and you know what? I'm also going to give a bunch of links in the description box for people that want to follow up and look into the things that I have. I'm going to put good sources, good starting points to kind of dovetail with my discussion. So don't just take one person's word for it. Do your own research. So what I've learned and what I believe is that there are a lot of things we cannot control in life, but one thing we can control is what we consume, what we put in our mouths. My belief is that there is nothing more important in our lives than our health, and the single biggest determinant of having a good health in quality, longevity, quality of life is food. It's the number one determinant, what we eat. The other fact that we have to state up front is that we have to do this ourselves. No one's going to do it for us. We have to maintain our bodies. We have to love ourselves first, take care of ourselves, prioritize ourselves first in order to be do any good in this world or do good for others. You have to take care of yourself first. So that starts with the food you eat. And the care you take and the kind of lifestyle you live. So no one's going to do it for us. We have to do this. It doesn't just magically happen. You have to be active, participant. So we need to give our bodies proper fuel. There are other things as well. It's not just what you eat. It's also getting rest, getting a good sleep, getting exercise, getting sun. And other things as well. But to me, at the very top of the pyramid is the food we eat. The problem for all of us is that in our education, we're taught very little about food, and that we need to take care of our body. And the things that we are taught are comically wrong or heavily conflicted. There's conflicts of interest, there's agendas, there's dogma, there's industry involvement, So we're surrounded by myths and lies that aren't so helpful. So if we look at our modern Western diet, standard American diet, although I don't think it's limited to America anymore, I think it's pretty much spreading throughout the world, dietary problems. Although I think in America we do kind of lead the way in terms of poor food choices and obesity and diseases. I mean, we're not exactly setting a good example, but I see certain categories of foods that are causing problems and need to be avoided. The first of which is what I call highly refined packaged foods. They're highly palatable. They're designed to make us consume a lot of it. They're designed to be addictive and to make us not want to stop eating. They offer little in the way of nutrition. What our bodies seek are two things: protein and energy. Our bodies need both. So energy can come from carbs or fat, but carbs is not the greatest source of energy, which I'll get into later. So what these kind of foods have, what I want to say is that they do contain energy, but very little protein. So a lot of energy, little protein, so they don't do much for you. So our body, is still seeking protein. It's not satisfied with a little bit of protein that you get from these kinds of foods. So if you overconsume these foods that have poor nutrition and little protein, it leads to fat storage and obesity. That's the natural outcome. So, I mean, just examples, there are numerous. It's pretty much every aisle of the grocery store contains this stuff. It's pretty much all snack foods, anything you find on the shelf, like cookies, crackers, chips, all that stuff, candy. Fast food is in that category. Breakfast cereals, frozen food, frozen entrees, things like that are highly processed, man-made substances which provide little in the way of nutrition, but actually they just provide little in the way of nutrition. These are, in my opinion, this is an example of a food that's greatly overeaten and overconsumed in our culture. The other damaging modern food category that's overconsumed in our culture is sugar. When we consume sugar, our bodies convert it to glucose, which is that's a fuel, and we have a very limited supply of glucose. We have not so many places we can store glucose. There's a little bit in our blood, there's some in our muscles, and glucose is readily accessible energy that can be used for quick bursts of energy, for sprinting or lifting something or something intense. Conversely, other energy that's derived by fat burning, like ketones, we have huge reserves of energy that are available to us in our fat stores, and this is like a slower release energy, but the problem is that pathway, hardly anybody uses it, the fat burning, because we're over consuming sugar, and we get our overconsumption of sugar is from starchy carbs, refined sugar. I mean, sugar is in practically everything, every sauce. Anything in a restaurant has got sugar in it of one form or another. It might not say sugar, but it's not. It's all sugar. If you, it's frightening that, I mean, pretty much everywhere you go it's loaded with sugar, and it's way too much more than we need. And so this is extra energy again that we don't need. A lot of it comes from. This is one of the worst ones. Is from the sugary beverages, the sodas and fruit juices or whatever. These are really highly effective sugar delivery system. I mean, you can really overdose on sugar by drinking it. And so, to me, drinking sugar should be avoided at all costs. Excess sugar consumption leads to insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is I call it the on-ramp for all modern chronic disease. Seems to flow from insulin resistance. So the sugar is just leading you on that path, and it's quite destructive. Now, the other category of modern dietary philosophy that I take exception to, and this one will probably be controversial for many people, is that, in my opinion, we are taught to overconsume plant food. Plants, we're told, are the pinnacle for our health and for the environment. And in fact, that crazy food pyramid we have, which is essentially upside down. The base of the pyramid is eating all kinds of grains and then fruits and vegetables on top of it. I don't know how many times a day you're supposed to gorge yourself on fruit and vegetables and grains, but in my opinion, it's exactly wrong. Not that humans can't tolerate some amount of plant food, but it shouldn't be the staple. And some people can't tolerate it at all. So I think it's a myth that the plants are some really healthy food. In fact, I think they're behind a lot of they're another on-ramp to modern illnesses, and we're only finding that out now. Plants protect themselves with toxic chemicals. They're endogenous toxic chemicals to protect their seeds mainly, and to protect their bodies. Plants want you to consume their fruit. They make it nice and sweet. So you grab the fruit, you take the fruit, and this is how they propagate it. With the fruit comes the seeds, and the seeds get dispersed and they propagate. They don't particularly care for you to eat their seeds or their bodies or their roots. And that's where the toxic chemicals are. And that's what we're consuming. When we eat seeds and vegetables that are the roots or the bodies of plants. I won't go into a lot of detail on the varieties of them. I will link to some resources where you can check it out. But these plant toxins can be very disruptive. It can disrupt our immune system. They can disrupt our hormones. They can perforate our gut. They can cause neurological issues, mood disorders, depression. The list goes on and on. And we're sold that plants are highly nutritious and we have to have them in our diet because of this great amount of nutrition they have. But it's really, when you dig down into it, it's actually not true. A lot of the nutrition in plants, theoretically, it looks like it's there, but then you look at it, oh wow, look at how much I would have to eat to get these certain vitamins and nutrients. And then, oh, by the way, they're not exactly in the form that's readily available in our body. They're not in a bioavailable form that we can use, not compared to what the nutrition that comes in plant products, animal products. And plants have things called anti-nutrients. They actually interfere with the uptake of many minerals. So, plants are disruptive in many extents. And I would just encourage people to open your eyes and read up on it and look into it and think about it. Because I know it sounds radical. Everywhere you go, everybody and their doctor and the mother of your doctor is going to say, "Oh, fruits and vegetables, it's our savior." But I really question that. So the other outcome of eating these kinds of foods that are poor nutritional choices, it leaves us wanting to eat more and more often. When we're eating a lot of sugar and carbs, we tend to want to eat often and more, and we don't give our body any chance to rest. We're eating every few hours, and this is exactly the wrong outcome. This is not what we want. As long as we're eating, our body continues to be using some amount of insulin. And insulin is kind of in charge of whether we're storing fat or burning fat. And when insulin is always dominant, that means we're always storing fat. When are we going to burn fat? When are we going to utilize ketones for fuel? Or when are we going to, if we gain a little weight, when are we going to ever lose that weight if we're never burning our fat? So this is the other aspect that our diet leads us to eating too often and not being able to have an intermittent break or do any kind of fasting, which our body needs it. Our body needs break from eating and digesting in order to rebuild and repair and to heal. The problem with these that these dietary issues inflict on us in our health. The thing is, the effects are not uniformly consistent across the population. For example, people like myself are what's called insulin sensitive. As bad as my diet was, I had no problem maintaining proper glucose levels. I had real effective response to insulin. So my insulin was under control. And so I never went down the path towards diabetes. It was, maybe slightly, but not too much. What I did do, because my body was so sensitive to insulin, is to store fat. I was crazy good at storing fat, and that's the outcome of being insulin sensitive and eating a bad diet. You're just going to get really, really fat. Other people, though, they tend to be more insulin resistant. As time goes on, they need more and more insulin to remove the glucose from their blood, and over time, this leads towards diabetes. The tragedy is that we don't look at that. Our doctors are not looking at insulin. They're looking at only the glucose levels. But glucose, by the time glucose is out of control, when insulin can no longer control glucose, you don't know what's been going on. That could be years earlier. If you've been looking at the insulin, you might have spotted trouble. You might have spotted a person who's having trouble handling a high-carb diet, and they might have been able to take action, before they became diabetic. But that's our system. We just treat diabetes. Oh, that's something. You're just going to have to deal with it. Now, don't change your diet at all. Just continue to. We can give you these pills, these drugs, metformin and such, and we'll get you insulin. No problem with your body, is not making enough insulin, you inject the insulin and everything will work out just fine, which it doesn't. It's absolutely, to me, it's criminal what we do. Nobody ever cures himself this way, and you just manage. It's a managed decline, and it happens to be a decline that makes a lot of money for people. Do you know what the metformin costs or what insulin costs? All the procedures, all the doctor visits, but the health outcome from the way we manage diabetes, it's sad, it's tragic, and to me it's criminal. So yeah, for some people, the dietary problems are manifest right away, especially with the plant reaction to plants and plant toxins. There's some people that have a reaction immediately, and the thing is they don't know it's the plants. They just live with some kind of, whether it's acne or whether it's bowel issues or skin issues or whatever it is. Nobody ever suspects that it's in the diet. They just, again, management with treatments and lotions and creams and medication and you name it. Other people, though, it takes a long time. In other words, they don't really notice anything. They kind of get lulled into a false sense of security. They're eating diet. They heard about, maybe there's these issues and with sugar and whatnot. Well, they think, hey, I'm reasonably healthy. I'm not that much overweight. I don't have a problem with plants, because I've been doing it for years. The thing is, it is kind of a false sense of security because it may take years. It could be decades, and you might get into your 50s and 60s. And then what happens? You've been living in this depleted state for so long that you start rapidly falling apart, and it's like it starts quick acting, and then there's this cascade of events. You start going to the doctor. Hey, what's going on? I've always been pretty healthy, and they well, we better start this. We better start that. And so you start multiple different actions and drugs, and you start to have aches and pains and one thing after another, and the drug interactions, and next thing you know, your quality of life is out the window. You still may find later in life the true effect of the diet, what it was, the bad diet choices. It may take, all I'm saying is it may take a long time for those actions to manifest themselves, whereas with some people, it's immediate and severe and can last a whole lifetime. For these people, if they don't identify that it is in the diet and make corrections, they might be living a compromised lifestyle in a really unhappy, unhealthy life of all kinds of issues. So it's not uniform and across the population. It just depends on the person. So again, just to reiterate, our modern diet, it leads to a number of issues because of the sugars and the plant foods and the overconsumption of food. Our immune system is compromised. Our gut lining is compromised. We end up with leaky gut. Our muscle and skeletal system starts deteriorating because we're not getting protein, and we got things like oxalates and other things embedding themselves in our body. So we start to feel like arthritis and joint pain. Cardiovascular system is compromised. I think primarily because of the sugar. Our hormones are dysregulated. It's just a whole litany of things. Autoimmune disease, diabetes, I've already mentioned these things. It goes on and on and on. And that's why I kind of say that the modern list of chronic diseases, the on-ramp towards those outcomes is diet. That's the pathway that leads to it, is diet. That's my opinion. Fortunately, I think there's a better way. I think there's a natural way to fight disease and to live in a healthy fashion that doesn't involve drugs or surgeries or doctor's visits. It may surprise some people, but our bodies know how to keep us healthy. Our bodies know how to eliminate toxins. If things are functioning properly, if they're not compromised by dysregulation or bad diet, and they're working the way they're supposed to, and we give our bodies a chance to heal, they can heal. Our bodies will heal. Our body is the best doctor that you're going to find. Our bodies are miraculous, to be quite honest, the things they can do. If we just give them a chance, give them proper fuel, which means, cleaning up the diet, the sugar, the excess carbs, get proper nutrition, conquer hunger, so you're not eating all the time, so your body has a rest. Learn to do some fasting. Fasting is allowing your body to fast is when you're going to find the most healing. And like I said, your body knows what to do to heal you. But this is not something anyone says or anyone talks about. No doctor would consider it insane. No, healing, according to our kind of Western medicine, is, it's about drugs or cutting or removing something or, just managing, just live with it, as best you can with these drugs, No, let the body have a crack at it. It's not that it's going to fix 100% of the things, but it's the best way to start. So eating right, fasting, this is the approach that I would take. Certainly for anybody who's got at some stage of chronic sickness or feels like they got problems that just don't go away and aren't being solved. I would start by looking at diet, going to an elimination diet maybe, and when I say conquer hunger, once you correct your diet, once you get away from carbs and sugar and you get into being a fat burner, you can start narrowing the eating window and doing some fasting, and you will change your life if you do that. You will feel so much healthier. But even if you're not currently sick, do yourself a favor and don't wait. Don't wait for the doctor to come to you one day and say, "Oh, it looks like you're pre-diabetic." Don't wait for that bad news way down the road. Live right now, and so that you have a chance to have that long, healthy lifespan. That's a good quality of life. Don't wait. Don't be a statistic someday. Don't add yourself to the roles of drug takers by treating yourself right. Having a healthy lifestyle, which to me is eating a low carb. There's different ways you can do it, but I say a low carb or zero carb diet that is really. I would avoid all sugar at all possible. I would avoid plant food as much as possible. Not everybody has to do it 100%, but I would just really think about it, and don't consider them as this magic healthy food that the more the better. The healthier we are with spinach and kale smoothies and that. No, that you're really going to set yourself up for problems if you overboard with it. So, at a very minimum, at the very least, minimize plant foods if you don't want to eliminate it completely. Some people like to have a little bit, here and there, but just be conscious of what they are and what they represent, and do your own research and explore. You will be shocked at the different problems that are caused by plants, and it might cause you to have incentive to modify your diet a little bit. In addition, it's not only diet. You do have to rest, get quality rest, quality sleep, stay active, exercise, get in the sun, keep your stress low, that kind of thing, and everything will be in better balance. You hear a lot of talk about following the science in terms of diet, and a lot of people claim to have the science on their side. Okay, I'm just going to say much of what's called science, the studies, are merely, they're trying to do two things. They're trying to present an outcome that the sponsor of the study desired. So there's a conflict of interest. And they're also trying to show that more studies are needed, because you do a study and it always says, further study is needed. Of course, people that do studies want more studies. So it's not really that helpful. In fact, that's to put it mildly. Some of it is just outright dogma or propaganda. There is some good science. But even the good science, it tells us so little. It tells us one little window into one little event over a certain amount of time with a certain group of people in certain conditions. It's out of the whole spectrum of how complex nature is and our bodies are and diets are. It doesn't answer a lot of questions. There's just not enough money in the world to give those answers. You'd be studying. You'd have to study everybody continuously around the clock, and still it couldn't tell you how to eat. So all I'm saying is we shouldn't need science to know how to eat. It's not to ignore science, but I say also look at the anecdotes. Look at the success stories. Talk to people. Go on YouTube, see what people like myself are saying about what they did. Look at places like MeatRx. Look at the success stories there, the healing that has been done by people going to a meat-based diet. The incredible amount of healing when they give up plants. It will boggle your mind. Look at the success stories on Diet Doctor for losing weight and getting off medications and diabetes and curing all kinds of things. There are anecdotes everywhere which can't be ignored. And then finally, here's the thing with nutrition and food. You can do your own science, do your own tests. There's nothing to stop you there's nothing dangerous about trying different dietary approaches. I know people will scare you and call like a keto diet, that can't be recommended because it's dangerous. It's not balanced. It cuts out food groups, and you'll hear all this kind of nonsense about all the dangers. Listen, trust yourself to be able to know what's good for yourself. So I do it I still do it. I'm happy with my diet, but I test little things. As you know, I've talked about different experiments I do, and I'm not doing too many right now, but down the road I will. I like testing things just for the heck of it. I'm always looking for improvements, possibly, or changes, or I want to make sure I'm not missing the boat. But the point is, it's not just about science. Talk to people, look at success stories, look at what people are doing and say, wow, how could all of those people have such great outcomes by ignoring the experts. How is that possible? And how is it possible that so many people that follow the expert advice, follow the dietary guidelines, end up with disease? Why is that? So I guess just in summation, I'm just encouraging people to be suspicious, to think outside the box, to question everything. Don't just accept anything or any one person or any one paper or whatever. What's the saying? Trust but verify. Verify with yourself, and don't consider your doctor like a god, like whatever he says is written on stone tablets. It's not like that. You can. A lot of doctors are just going through the motions and just doing what the standard of care says they should do, and they don't want to rock the boat. They just get a paycheck, just in and out. Okay, I don't want to paint with a broad brush. Some that care more than that, but when it comes to the world of nutrition and that, don't expect that your doctor is an expert. In fact, I would just almost assume that he's not an expert on nutrition, because that's not really what they're there for, or a healthy lifestyle. Do you go to your doctor? Theoretically, it's to maintain your health. Do you think your doctors are the people that know everything about living a healthy life? That's not really what they're trained in. They're trained in these specific disciplines that that provide an income, but it's not really, that income isn't really based on the amount of healthy outcomes that come from their advice. So don't treat your doctor as a god, because you know what? You can go to a number of doctors and find all different opinions. They're not all the same. Some actually have an idea about nutrition, and some practice that. So people that say, well, my doctor said this. Yeah, well, what about the other doctors who totally disagree with that doctor? So there's a lot of good doctors out there they're on the bandwagon and realize that diet is the starting point for all of your health concerns. And I think the movement is growing. That's what I sense anyway. People are fed up with being told from the experts how to live and what's healthy and what to eat, and they're starting to really question everything, which I'm fully in support of. So so I think that'll wrap up what I had to say today. This is kind of a different video, just sharing my opinions on food. Like I said, this isn't to say follow my plan and everything will be rosy for you. I'm just saying question and keep an open mind, and test things out. And don't just assume that what you've been told, what you heard on TV, what the commercial said, what your doctor said, what the textbook said, is really accurate or really helpful. Okay? All right. That'll end it for today. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all my subscribers who give me great contact and great motivation, and sometimes share their amazing stories with me. And I hope you're all doing well and have a great weekend. Take care and talk to you next time. Bye now.